Hello, everybody. My name is Saul. Many of you people know me from my DBM casts, but today we are starting a new series. This is Interview with a DB Creator. I definitely didn't steal the title from Interview with a Vampire. You got that wrong. I'm going to be going around the Death Battle community, whether it be the Reddits or the Discords, and interviewing many of the members in this. Today, this is our little test pilot series, so we get to see how this goes. Would you like to introduce yourself, person also in this call?
Hello. Well, my name is, I'll introduce myself. People will not recognize me because of my Discord name, but I'm Phantomslasher4. I'm one of the older. Gosh dang it! It has to happen the instant this starts. I'm one of the older members of the community. I've been around since DBM had around, I think, 4,000 members. Holy shit! But I've been around this community for quite a while, although I've mostly been a worker, although I have had a bit of a prevalence in like the last year or so.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yes, it's good to see that people have taken interest in this, and it's good to have you on. I've obviously seen you around DBM quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, I guess just kind of explain, how did you get into Death Battle and DBM? Because everyone has a story.
Oh god. I'd say the first Death Battle episode I ever saw was Beast versus Goliath. Everyone else is like,
rough.
wow, I got in that Goku versus Superman or Mario versus Sonic. I got in that Beast versus Goliath song and thought, hey, that seems cool. And then it kind of got pushed back to my memory. And then I came back. I think I saw Lucario versus Renamon because God knows I cannot for the life of me have a bit of taste. And then I didn't stick with it either then. And then Shredder vs. Silver Samurai came out, thank God, and I enjoyed it quite a lot, and then DBM started becoming a thing I'd watch, like, all the time. DBM, I think it was around the time of Scarlet Witch vs. Zatanna, where I had joined and started doing more things on the actual Death Battle subreddit, but one day I had decided to check out the regular Death Battle matchup sub because when you search it up on Reddit, it is included as well, and it seemed pretty cool. Like at the time, the subreddit didn't like really make any like big matchups. Like if there was a Mucho Texto matchup around, it was a Hyposuda matchup, but that's a name that so many people are not going to know, and that is crushing to me. But basically, one person, maybe two, would only ever create like the large matchups and whatnot. And it was a small little community, and that's kind of how I got into it. I really was kind of just like memeing around a lot of like the early days when I was here, but that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And now, yeah.
Gosh, it's wild to hear someone's been on DBM for like a good amount of time. This is my third year on like DBM. So knowing that there's still people here who have been like, I mean, it was like over a year ago now.
I know DBM wants to get rid of me, but they'll never be able to.
Same with me, bud. Same with me. Yeah. So, do you want to just quickly give us a rundown of what type of content you create on DBM?
Okay. I tend to stick to matchup creation. While I used to do debating, I used to be like the guy people like pinged and stuff whenever DC Comics needed debating or explaining about. But I don't tend to do that anymore. I don't like debating much anymore. Arguments are not like much of my thing.
Yeah, debating sometimes. Oof. Especially in the community, DBM and debating sometimes doesn't match as well.
Yeah. And DBM is also very bad at debating, so I do not like it very much for that.
I'm not saying if I agree or disagree. I'm putting my hands up.
It's basically if you haven't like seen me around the subreddit, I'm very blunt when it comes to my opinions on DBM.
Yeah.
So I don't really care about like what people like think of it and whatnot. But I tend to do matchup creation. I'm a huge DC guy. Most of my like big stuff tends to be DC. I recently have been sticking with like MUs with like a larger amount of connections when it comes to what I've posted recently. Um, Sometimes I'll do like ask me anythings, but so far those have basically spiraled out of control. So I haven't done one in a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the entire sort of thing I do.
I actually.
Although, like,
you go on.
Sorry, I completely
You go on.
just brought it up. But I also sometimes will like go on posts where it's like where people need like help explaining something with like current goings on in DBM, like drama and stuff like that, and try to explain it in my more blunt manner with how people act. But that's kind of my entire thing. Although I have been doing connection crossings recently, and oh boy, the subreddit loves those every time.
Yeah. Yeah. The subreddit sure loves those, don't they? Yeah, I didn't know he was such a big DC fan, actually. It's not something that, like, if I see you on the sub, I wouldn't really associate you. But, like,
I don't really talk about it too much, really. Not anymore. Although, like, I'm very knowledgeable on it. I think, like, Umineko, and World of Darkness are, like, the three big things I sort of scale and whatnot.
Yeah.
And all three of those bosses are known for being major headaches.
Yeah, you just pick the three nightmares to scale, isn't it?
Someone has to.
Someone has to at the end of the day. Yeah, I love DC myself as well. I think, I don't know, especially after reading so many comics recently, you kind of get into that thing. But I know comics, like, they can be really hard to get into when you like.
Yeah, it's hard. I think my first comic was like a random Crisis on Infinite Earths comic that I found at like Walmart, and then I kind of just got into it from there.
Gosh, I can't even remember my first comics. I remember being really into like the Injustice stuff.
Oh yeah, Injustice is definitely like one of the big stories people go to.
Yeah, and then I was like, man, I don't really like Injustice.
Honestly, fair. It has its moments, but unless you're like reading like when you're outside of like the big stuff, like the stuff that like everyone talks about, the good stuff, and get to the stuff that kind of like runs on a little more, it gets very boring.
So let's talk through some matchups, shall we? Considering you've made quite a few. I'm not going to be going through all of them because you've made, frankly, quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how many. I do not have as many as most creators do. I think I might have like 15. But partially that's because I'm very picky with like what I actually make. Like, I'll go through a lot of like beta ideas and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I won't actually post it unless it's something I'm like very passionate about anymore. Although I should probably reevaluate that choice and kind of just have fun with it, especially considering most of my very popular ones ends up being the ones I kind of just come up with in the shower. But yeah.
Yeah. So particularly, I want to start with, I think it's your most popular matchup, I'd say.
Yeah.
Kyoko Kirigiri versus Harold Finch. One of those people, not like the other.
There's something different.
There's something a bit unique.
Clearly, there's something awry.
So that was a really big one, especially at the time that it dropped.
Yeah, it popped off a lot. Like, I know the council and whatnot wants to do a grading on it, but they can't because no one knows person of interest other than, like, me. I know some people are getting into it, but they don't want to, like... But it's taking them a while because it's on a 100-episode series that's, like, 40 minutes long per episode. I'm very passionate about the MU. I think it's very, very cool. It has a lot sort of going for it. Combines two of my favorite series together,
Yeah.
and I really like it. I should probably like promote it more, but then again, I tend to stick to like new stuff.
Yeah. This person of interest. I guess the only word I can use is interest as well, because you've made the second matchup about it. That I'm going to bring up later. What? Like
Yeah,
what? How? Why are you so into this? Like, what is person of interest really? As someone who hasn't seen it, I don't know.
that's fair. Person of Interest is like it's not obscure per se. Like in its peak, it's gotten like 14 million watchers in the U.S. Holy cow! Like the second to only NCIS to like hit that many. But like, Person of Interest is a show, and basically you have Harold Finch, and he's this billionaire, and well, he's like a reclusive billionaire who looks to help others. And throughout the series, you follow him and John Reese, a dude he recruits in order to like help him do that stuff. And you follow them helping others. You follow, and then like full season, everyone basically admits it if you're a Person of Interest fan. But it's a bit of a slog. It's like an episode of the day kind of thing. There's an
Yeah.
overarching plot, and then like middle of season two, there's 5 seasons of this, but it starts like picking up on like this massive overarching plot about them. So basically, how Harold does things is he uses the machine, which is basically a machine that, through the use of analyzing camera footage and text messages, it's basically like Person of Interest is basically how people describe using the internet and the government surveying your phones. But it basically uses that information to predict murders ahead of time. And that's sort of how they go through and do things throughout the entire series. It'll tell them, hey, this person will like be involved in one, but it doesn't tell them whether they're the killer or the victim.
Right.
So it leaves them wondering the entire time, trying to figure out who it could be. And that's like kind of the main gimmick of it.
Okay.
Although it does change quite a bit throughout the series.
Yeah.
I really like it for its character growth, the development and stuff. Like a lot of the characters sort of hit home with me a lot.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting show, and I like.
Also, when a lot of my favorite voices get to like outer to boundless, it's nice to have like one really well written show that gets to like building level. I think there might be an island level calc out there, but it's nice to have something a lot more grounded compared to everything else.
I like matchups in DBM that specifically use like more unknown characters. I like seeing people push their interests a lot more. Like like a person of interest.
It is kind of hard to get those to be popular because like I have this issue with like I know what the MU you'll bring up later and this MU, but it's kind of like it's hard to get people really invested with it because basically you're kind of bound to good old purgatory at best if people don't know one of the characters.
Oh yeah, I have that a lot with the matchups I used to make. I guess we can just bring up the other one right now. It's Light versus John Reese from Person of Interest. Now that one also did very well.
Yeah, that one also did much better. I really like that one for the sort of like dynamic it has with it. The whole CIA, ex-CIA operative versus the most wanted man in the world. And then the whole thing with how like John basically went from like how would I put this? Light basically became what John was in the beginning, and John became what Light was at the beginning. Basically, they started out in completely. They like Light started out how John was at the end of the series. Well, John became how Light was at the beginning of the series.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then they kind of,
yeah. So it's definitely an I think. Like the Kirigiri one had more success, probably because she's a character with less matchups. Definitely.
I also put like so much more effort into that. It kind of started like the push of my sort of like template I use when I make matchups.
Yeah.
Like the whole like potential thing followed by creator thoughts. I know like McMania's picking that thing up, and I like it. I think including creator thoughts in you is like a really good way to like get off how you feel about it, because like sometimes on DBM you don't get a chance to talk about it, so having creative thoughts gives you that chance to like just kind of go on about what you like about the MU.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that, you know, this interview has allowed you to go off about a person of interest. I'm sure you could go off for a lot, so much longer, but so those are the matchups mainly. You made other ones. I did want to mention about, you made a lot of DCEU matchups as well.
Oh yeah, I remember a lot of those. I got like one more that I'm cooking, but it's taking forever to get done due to me constantly doing other matchups. I've had it in the works since before Kyoko Finch, and as you can see, I just cannot stick to one concept to save my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that. I'm only moving around different concepts and stuff. So, you made a post over a year ago now.
Oh no. No. He's gonna bring up my past. I'm getting doxxed.
Not yet. That's one of my questions later.
No.
The crabs in a barrel.
So Phantom, about your IP address.
Yeah, but what I have pulled up right now. Yeah, the crabs in a barrel theorem.
Oh yeah.
You made that over a year ago, and it inspired a lot of people to talk about the community. I got a few things that I want to ask you. One, if you could explain what that theorem is to the people at home who might not know, or God forbid, have not been around.
Crabs in a barrel theorem was basically Crabs in a barrel theorem popped the fuck off. It basically put like a new era into DBM. But basically, the theorem I used was DBM struggled to do good because people were constantly dragging each other down. Since a lot of people on DBM that are likely listening to this haven't been on the sub for very long, DBM used to have like a massive problem with like insulting each other, saying bad things about each other's matchups.
Oh yeah.
Holy cow, that's so much different than now. But it got really bad.
Yeah.
And things were happening alongside it that were not helpful. Like this was around the time I think frickin' Mike versus Deku happened, along with the Sinestro Terumi stuff.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah, and it was freaking horrible. And then I think what happened was one day I was in the DBM Discord server, and one of the people was like complaining about something on the subreddit, and I'm like, hey, you want me to make a post about this and a bunch of other issues on DBM here? I gotta open up the post because I have not touched this thing in forever.
I know. But you explained the theorem pretty well. This leads on to this is a more hypothetical question. I want to see how you feel about it. So the crabs in a barrel theorem, that being that DBM users kind of put each other down. Would you say that has evolved into the debunking culture that we see on DBM today?
I'm not sure. I feel like, gosh, that's kind of hard to say.
Yeah, I give a hard one.
Yeah.
Because
it's kind of like, I feel like some aspects of it could have evolved into that, but there's definitely like some other things at play with it. Because, like, the negativity and dragging each other down was definitely bad because, wow, a lot of things were also getting debunked around the time thinking about it. But I do think it kind of sort of evolved into the culture we have today in a way, so you're welcome, guys. I've officially created the hellscape known as DBM in the present day. But
yeah, you know when Oppenheimer is like looking over and he's like, do you regret like Albert Einstein's like, do you regret creating the atomic bomb? That's me asking you right now about the post.
Do you regret what you did?
Yeah, I just asked because I was looking at it and I feel like there's some links between, like, you know, you can't really go out and say, oh, this matchup is really bad, but you can now create a debunk on it.
Yeah.
Not saying that every debunk is, of course, antagonistic, but they are very negative things no matter how you look at them.
Yeah, I remember one point that I brought up in it, now that I finally pulled it up, is that, and I still feel like it's sort of applicable today, is
Yeah.
that hard work is sort of wasted on the sub.
Yes.
Like, I have this one stupid image that here, I'll send it to the chat just so the people at home can see. But it feels like it feels like every MU sort of gets the same response out of people, if you get what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
you'll open up new and you'll see a bunch of people calling stuff like, wow, this is peak fiction and whatnot. But it's kind of like what Syndrome says from The Incredibles. Where if everything is peak, then nothing is peak. It kind of just becomes a new standard.
I do agree with that to some certain extent, but I think where I kind of disagree with the hard work thing is
Oh, I found it.
when I let's see the peaking question. At least where I disagree with the hard work thing is that at least recently, like truly hard work stuff like Kaiser's Doomsday vs 682 animation, Ashley's Light versus Walter script, they have popped off.
Yeah, that stuff is absolutely friggin' popped.
They've popped off, and like before you'd have stuff like that, and they would go completely unnoticed.
Yeah, you would not know about that. Like, it would probably have gotten like 80 upvotes and then kind of just be swept under the rug.
Yeah, so I feel like that it's definitely there's a little bit of a change.
It's sort of like part of the reason why I started like having to like tell people ahead of time that, hey guys, I'm uploading a matchup at this point tomorrow to like get people to actually check it out.
Yeah, so I think it's harder with matchups because it's harder to tell the quality from the bad.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless you know intimately two characters, it is hard to say whether a matchup is good or bad.
Yeah.
Which I think is where you get a lot of the peak. Because you can have stuff that's, like, well written but very shallow, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Because, I think, well, I'm not sure if people remember this, but there's, like, a single offhanded post, I think, like, I don't remember what the Reddit name was, but there was, like, Link versus Walter White. And, like, that kind of shows that, like, you can get a bunch of wards through just through, like, generic wards, like, generic stuff, like, oh, they're both people within a universe that breathe air or something. Well, I don't think it's, like, fully an issue, like, fully to that level, of course. I do think it's definitely sort of shows that, yeah, having a lot of wards doesn't exactly make it good.
Yeah, but I definitely feel like we've improved in the aspect of hard work goes unnoticed, because I remember I remember over a year ago I was one of the people who was pushing, look guys, let's get these hard work.
Hard work going unnoticed was like one of the main drivers of the freaking crabs in a barrel theorem, because I think there was also like I think there was, like, at the time, there was also, like, me, like, trying to handle some stuff with one of my recent posts, which is partially why I brought it up.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that was a big sort of part that definitely needed the change over time.
Yeah, and it's good that it's changed. So, I guess, you know, you have been a part of debunks and stuff. How do you feel about the recent almost debunk culture that we have overall?
Well, you see, I've started at Salt. Well, I think it's good, but I also I think it's usually good in a way, but I also think it's bad in some other ways, because like most of the time I think it's good. I think it's good to like let people know like what they can do to improve and do better, and like what's wrong with the connections. Other times now I'm going to call some stuff out here. I'm not going to say any names, because once I say it, you'll know who you are. But there's stuff like, oh, like, I know freaking somehow, like, Uzi versus Blitzo got 2 debunks, and I honestly did not like the debunk, because it really just felt like, guys, you gotta understand, they're completely different, despite the fact I'm not debunking any of the connections and just saying they happen under completely different circumstances. It means it's bad. You gotta get it, guys. It does feel like sometimes that like people are like either just not doing them very well or like too aggressive with it. I know there was like Rex and not was it Rex? I know Jamie Vania did one that people saw as aggressive, and while I was personally fine with it, it definitely sort of shows like what does go into a bad debunk. Although yeah, I don't hate the one Jamie did. I'm completely fine with it, but I do think it kind of shows like the negative side of debunks.
Yeah. People have been debunking a lot of different matchups now. It's
Definitely.
really...
I don't exactly get to talk considering I've done the freaking Kyoko Tap debunk, which is an entirely different bag of worms.
Do we even want to bring it up?
I don't know. It'll get brought up in the comments, knowing my luck.
Yeah,
but
if you want to talk about it now, save people talking about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. If I had been asked, if I went back in time to before I made that debunk and got told of the events that happened, I'd still have made the debunk. I do not regret a thing.
That was an interesting few hours.
Bro, it's so funny because that day I uploaded it during like a school play, and then right after nothing. It didn't really hit the popularity spot yet. So nothing really happened with it for that point. And then I had to go to tennis practice. And by the time I finish up tennis, I come back and there's 80 comments, 51 upvotes, and then the freaking post is locked. And I'm like, what the heck happened here, guys?
Yeah, I had to come in and lock that post.
Yeah, it was very freaking crazy, but at the same time sort of funny to me.
I was just like sitting right just like at home, and I saw everything blow up instantly, and I was like on damage control. I was moving between Reddit and the DB Discord and my DMs.
What have you done?
And I was like, what's going on? Come on!
Overlord, what the fuck?
So yeah, that was I feel like that was really unintentionally, of course. That was the start of...
Although it did have the issue of, like... I do have, like, scans for this, although I'm not gonna, like, go out of my way to find them because it takes freaking forever. But there was the issue of... I came up... When I was finished up with my part of the debunk, I came up with, like, the idea of Kyoko Finch, because I'd seen both. I knew, like, the ideas of it.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this could actually really work out, all things considered. And so that's kind of what inspired me to make it. But due to the timing of it, I think I had posted Krill versus Turnip Boy right beforehand. And I thought, hey, Krill versus Turnip Boy, well, what's the worst that could happen? And while it certainly popped off, like, holy cow, it's performed the best of any of my original matchups. Like, it even won that, like, halfway through the year original matchup bracket thing. But... like, it definitely had the issue of people seeing it as spiteful when it was in no way intended to be used that way. And it also sort of annoyed me because it's like being told, wow, I wrote 10,000 words, because that's actually how much it was over the course of 2 weeks, and I got told that this project I've put a lot of stuff into was spiteful on another matchup, which is very irritating.
I could definitely see where people were coming from, though, at least from like an outsider's perspective.
Yeah, I understand why, but it's kind of just annoying.
At least, like, hopefully now that matchup's legacy isn't...
Yeah, it's kind of just the much text up.
You know, it was kind of a really bad time to drop it.
Yeah, the issue kind of was I had wrote it up. I think I finished up writing the stuff for like the night before.
Yeah.
And I had really wanted to drop it soon, so I just figured, what's the worst that could happen? Actually, no, it wasn't the night before. It was like 2 nights before, and so I had time to like make the post on it and everything, telling people, hey, this is coming soon. But yeah.
Yeah, what a time. What a time.
Yeah, what a freaking time, that's for sure.
I mentioned the DBM Discord quite a bit, and you've already mentioned them. The council,
Yeah.
they are a pretty big figure in DBM.
Oh no.
What do you mean, no? What do you? I'm probably gonna be.
I'm afraid of where this is going.
I'm gonna be interviewing like 3 of them probably. They're not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything bad about them. I like them. I think they're cool. I was just gonna ask what is your.
You may not, but I sure will.
What is your how are you related to the council? What's your friend? What's your experience with them? Because everyone has a different experience with the matchup council.
Me and like a lot of the council members get along. Ava's a long time friend of mine. McMania's cool. I think I helped him out with like some early like Guts versus Posse stuff, like helping him like popularize it a little bit. I also worked with him to make Dark Orange versus Etrigan, which has also popped off recently.
Yes.
Me and Name Guy are regret the username as Reddit calls him. Chill, I guess. I don't have like anything against him, and most of the group is fine. I don't have any like horrid feelings about them or anything.
Yeah. I was just about to talk about your new kind of Dark Age matchup, because Dark Age just got a blog from Bang.
Yeah,
You like it kind of introduced the world of D&D stats to a different audience.
I have as like a World of Darkness fan, I know how powerful D&D like versus our World of Darkness is. I have it at like the third strongest verse in fiction, and I think it's definitely has the best hacks of them.
Yeah.
But D&D is also high up there with its like hacks and stats and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have it at like infinite layers into high outer or something. But yeah. Seeing the I think the community wasn't like too surprised by D&D being very OP. I think it was more so the idea that Dark Age scaled to it in any way.
Yeah.
Not like I was complaining too much. Part of like the thing that went into like behind the scenes of Etrigan versus Dark Age was this new blog is getting made and Dark Age is apparently getting buffed.
Yeah.
But we don't know like how much his stats are getting buffed.
Yeah.
Turned out to be freaking massive, so that means this might actually become a debate.
Yeah. It's definitely a really interesting matchup. It was funny because I'm in Bang server because I work on a few blogs for him, and I joined the call during the debate. I stayed there for like half an hour and I left. I was like 4 hours later and the call was still going on.
Oh my gosh.
It was such a like heavy debate. Just shows you how like D&D is such a covers. Right, I got 2 questions now referring to kind of blogs. If you could see one original matchup and one non-original matchup have blogs, what would you choose?
Original matchup. Oh, that's a tough one. Because, like, the thing you gotta think about with, like, blogs of original matchups is whichever one you choose is likely gonna end up getting some popularity.
Mm-hmm.
So, it also means, like, you take a deep dive into the characters and whatnot. So it's kind of like what I like to see go into. I think, as much as I don't really... I think Morphe Law versus the Princess could be a cool blog.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like one of my originals if people didn't know, because I know Charming Bet was the one who popularized it.
Yeah.
But
I think they need anyone to populate as a matchup.
I think if it came to a matchup that I didn't make that I'd like to see get a blog on it, I think it would either be like Buck Wild versus Puss in Boots or Morak versus Deathwing.
Oh, those are 2 cool ones.
Yeah. Those are both in my like top 10 of all time, and I enjoy them. I just don't get to talk about them very much.
Yeah. Is there any other favourite matchups you want to list now, since more people, now that you have the floor, the panel?
Most of my original matchups are like matchups that you have like a connection to, stuff like Chris McLean versus Monokuma. Let's see, what else is there? Superboy Prime versus Mockery of Death, and there's some other ones in there. I think those might be like the only two like actually big ones.
Yeah.
There's my original matchups, which I have like 3 of them in there, and then there's like some wild cards like Bindi versus Springtrap, Deathwing versus Morat, and
Buck versus Puss.
of course Buck Wild versus Puss in Boots.
That's one of my favourite matchups as well, so...
Yeah, it's really cool. It's very underrated.
Yeah, but I do feel like it's one of those ones where it's like, you have to grow up with Ice Age. I grew up with Ice Age. So...
Yeah.
Outside of it...
It's part of the reason I sort of like the idea of Death from Puss in Boots 2 versus Rudy, because it's like, if you've seen Ice Age 4, Rudy was basically... Wait, was it Ice Age 4? I think it might have been Ice Age 3.
Freeze all those dinosaurs.
I'm never getting my Ice Age pass back.
I think 4's Continental Drift.
Yeah, Continental Drift. I completely forgot about the existence of Continental Drift. To be honest, 2 hasn't.
You've completely ruined your reputation on the cast now. If anyone who would like admire you, you've lost it now. You've listed the wrong Ice Age film.
Darn it. I'm never getting this street cred back ever.
Yeah.
But if you've ever seen Ice Age 3, Rudy was basically just Death before Death had came into conceptual existence.
Yeah. It's one of those ones. Also, like Death fighting a dinosaur. That's just kind of cool.
Yeah, like, it's the idea of Death from Puss in Boots just fighting a giant friggin' dinosaur.
It's kind of Death Rattlesnake Jake, but better.
Yeah.
Not to throw shade at another matchup.
It also kind of gives you... I also kind of, like, just don't really care much for, like... I think... Gosh, what's the big one? Puss in Boots versus Lego Batman.
Yeah.
Because, like, while the connections are good, you're putting Puss in Boots versus a freaking Batman, and I feel like there's, like, a little bit of, like, an arsenal stomp in the fight potential there.
Maybe not, because Lego is quite limited, because it's just a movie.
I mean, yeah, it is quite limited because it is just a movie, but he still has, like, a lot of stuff in that one movie other movie showings that he does have.
Wow, we've been nearly going at this for an hour. So, wow, that's gone way too quick for my liking. I guess we'll start to wrap this up.
Let's go 3-hour video.
3 hours already!
The real reason this is a pilot is because after this episode, it's getting cancelled.
After this episode, I ran out of...
for DBM.
I ran out of budget. No, I can have worse figures on. I can have more controversial.
Yeah.
This is a good little opener.
Yeah.
What are you kind of looking to do in DBM and just in kind of life? Where are you heading towards, in terms of your... Maybe it's...
Like outside of DBM.
Outside of DBM, and also, if you want to say, inside of DBM as well.
DBM-wise, I'm mainly less active on it. I kind of just, like, stay viewing unless I get, like, involved in something like Ravon versus Dark Urge and the Dark Urge versus Etrigan thing. I got involved doing that more. But I've kind of just, like, stayed back watching. Most of what I'm wanting to do is just, like, stay back, and, like, if I do make a matchup, it'll kind of just be show up one day, say, hey guys, I'm dropping a matchup tomorrow, and then drop the matchup the next day, and then kind of just, like, go back to vibing for a little bit.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, IOL, I'm looking to go further into, like, stuff like art, digital design. The one I'm looking into the most is actually, like, fashion.
Ooh.
But, yeah. A very uncommon pick, but that's kind of, like, what I'm interested in.
Yeah, it's awesome. I just think it's, like, DBM user fashion. DBM users can't cook anyway.
That's why I'm not cooking. I'm creating.
Right. Well, I think that's all I wanted to ask you. Is there anything else you want to talk about now?
Let's see. Do you want to know? I mean, I was half expecting like a question on like, hey, what are your hot takes up within the subreddit?
I mean, if you have any, feel free to drop them.
I have too many. One of my one that's been increasingly prevalent to my dismay, haha, Bendy and the Ink Machine reference, is freaking. Look, I don't care. I know I'm like a massive DC fan. I've mentioned it beforehand that it's like my favorite voice, but like I don't care if a character loses. But holy shit, are the arguments for Superman losing to Scarlet King absolute dog shit? Like I kind of get it. Like but it really does feel like a lot of it boils down to Scarlet King has a bigger cosmology, and while the argument of he has way better hacks is more prevalent, it also kind of just like it's also kind of just like Superman literally has more variety of hacks, and anything Scarlet King can do to actually kill him, he resists. So, it's like it basically just comes down to either like, do you say that, hey, despite the fact both of them basically have infinite layers of resistance, do you start going into like, oh, but SCP's cosmology is bigger, which means that the hacks is more prevalent? Or do you go into the thing of Superman literally just has so many hacks that Scarlet King doesn't resist that he's going to find something that kills him?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's become at this point. Let's see what else is there. I already brought up the whole thing about like DBM being a little too like lenient on like what matchup is good and what matchup isn't.
Yeah.
I do find stuff a little annoying, like on the Porky versus Lucamine debunk. There was some people in the comments who were like, "This is I disagree with a lot of this, but I respect your opinion." And it's like, I don't want you to respect my opinion. I want you to tell me what's wrong with it. And it's like, what is wrong with it? I've had like the entire debunk was made by 3 different Pokemon fans.
Yeah.
Looking through the entirety of Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon and the anime, and it's like, what did we get wrong with it? We've literally gone through the entirety of it. What is there to get wrong? We even were originally going to have an Earthbound person on it, but it kind of led us to realizing, wait a minute, this is really just like a a Porky featuring Lucamine matchup. Yeah. Because like every connection on Porky's side is perfectly fine, and meanwhile on Lucamine's side everything is finicky at best. Which was a little annoying to see, but I quite frankly just do not care that much. There's like DBM struggles to make me like care outside of like matchup creation and whatnot. Like they can have their opinions. I respect them as much as I disagree with some of them. And yeah, it's a little annoying, but that's kind of it in that case. Gosh, I was telling myself I had a lot of freaking hot takes to say on this podcast, and then I completely forgot all but 2.
Well, those are 2 pretty big ones.
Yeah. I'm sure Meme Spooner is gonna end up seeing this and be like, actually, Scarlet King was just all of Superman's hacks going off of the character stats profile he has that lists off all of his hacks. God. And actually, you're actually a moron, so get out of my country, and then I get punted through the ceiling.
Well, I guess we'll end it off here. So thank you for joining me for our first little DB interview with a DB creator. I hope to see more of this in the future. It's been fun having you on. You are officially now, if this series continues, you're officially the golden standard of it.
Oh gosh, the bronze standard. How will they ever hold up to me?
No, you've been great. You've talked about it a lot. I think now people get to know you, and especially, hopefully, the people who kind of think maybe about the matchup, you know, if it was spite or not. Gosh, I'm stumbling over my words.
I like for that thought to change.
Hopefully that'll change.
I was half expecting us I was half expecting one of the questions to be like, "So Overlord, about that Kyoko tap drama," and then just like go further into that. Although I guess it
No.
is kind of for the best that it does not get going into,
Yeah.
because I am very annoyed by that entire drama.
Yeah, we don't really need that here. This is only for fun vibes and just kind of good explanations and such. So, if you all had fun, just let me know. Maybe if you
Yeah.
want to be on in the future, be sure to contact me. You can find me under DBM as Saul Goodman, or you can find me on Discord as Saul Goodman again. I'm in most DB servers anyway.
For the episode 10 anniversary, let's go.
Yeah, we'll have you back on like 100 episodes.
How has Phantom changed after all of this time?
Episode 100, I bring everyone back. He's actually
It's
become
just
a
like a
Phantom.
single like 20-second video where it's like review talking back with the first DBM interviewee, and it's just saying I couldn't get in contact with him. He's moved on.
He's become an actual Phantom. You halt the series like Sonic EXE.
I just show up in a random VC. It becomes like a law.
Okay, thank you everybody. This is where we're going to stop it now. Bye! Bye! Bye!